Yo, what's poppin'? US Sizzle here, and today I'm covering the Dreams and Nightmare case. It just dropped today, so I figured I'd make a tier list on it. So first up, we have the Mac 10 Ensnared, and this thing is just beautiful. It's generally still black for the most part, but it has these nice little like designs on it that just fit really well. And then you have these like imp, goblin, demon things that are like trapped in the white fog of the main skin. And it has this kind of lighting and like almost you can see like the light blue there. Maybe that's like a visual effect, but it almost feels like it has a glow to it. It looks really clean. There's clearly a lot of thought put into it, and it just looks beautiful. I don't even know what looks so good about it. I just really do like how this one looks. I'd say you can't go wrong with this, and it's actually a really solid skin to the point where I'm going to put this one in the B tier. Then next up, we have the Scar 20 Poultrygeist, which might have been a good design on paper, but applied to this Scar 20, it's kind of shit. This looks like a skin you'd see from like 2008, or not 2008, like 2010 or something, one of the earlier, not 2012, 2013, like one of the early skins where it's just super stretched. It has like a cool design, don't get me wrong. I mean, this looks like someone put a lot of effort into drawing this, but it doesn't fit well in the Scar 20. It gets super stretched, and the color scheme is absolutely horrible. You can barely tell what anything in this picture is, and it doesn't go well in lighting. I mean, to be fair, this one is like, no, this is fact new too. It almost looks field tested because of the stock like ray here being a bit scratched up, and this massive tear in the back here. I don't know how this can be a fucking .01, but yeah, this thing is just horrible. I wouldn't recommend getting this. It had like zero thought put into it as a skin. It might have been dope artwork, but the skin itself is just horrible. There's so many better ones. This is F tier. Just stick to stock. Do not buy this thing. And next up, we have the MP5 SD Necro Jr., which has like a tentacle coming up the mag and has just a lot of little monsters kind of floating around, like a generally just brown background, which, looks okay. And then it has a chicken just flying out of the front of the barrel, which I think looks really funny and adds a lot to the skin. And that's mainly what you're going to be seeing in game is this front part here in front of the mag. That's the main thing you see when you're using the MP5. So that's the main thing you're going to be seeing, and I think it's pretty funny. I'd say you can't really go too wrong with this as a skin, so it's a C tier for me. Then next up we have the Mag 7 Foresight, um, which is interesting. It's completely grayscaled, is the first thing I notice. And then it has like Cthulhu coming across the whole skin, kind of blocking out the sun. There's a sun with a face here. I think that's supposed to be a moon behind there. There's something that says lose and win, so maybe it's supposed to be like a reference to tarot cards or something. I don't know. Then there's like a little eye kind of looking through here. I don't know what all this symbolism would actually mean, but it does look pretty solid together, but not to the point that I could say you can't really go wrong with this one. I mean, stock does look only marginally different than this, despite this being very well thought out. I mean, this everything fits exactly where it's supposed to be. There's definitely a lot of attention put into this one, but I think the choice to grayscale it with only a handful of noticeable details kind of makes it, only marginally better than stock. I'd say you can definitely use this, but I can see why some people wouldn't really like it as much. So for me, it's a D tier, and I think that's honestly where it belongs. Then next up, we have the 5-7 Scroll, and yeah. It's got like a skull in the back. It's one of those like graffiti skins, except I guess monster themed for the Dreams and Nightmares thing. There's two like dead faces in the front, which is kind of funny. There's a guy swimming through the front here. There's a skull. There's an eye. There's some writing that probably has some meaning. But honestly, this just looks like one of those graffiti skins, and I don't really like the graffiti skins that much. For the people that do, though, this is probably sick. But for me, there's just so many better 5-7 skins out there. I probably won't ever really be using this, but I can see why a few people would, so I'm going to put it in the D tier as well. Then next up, we have the sawed-off spirit board, which is supposed to be like a Ouija board. I don't know why this one's stat track. It's kind of weird that they have the showcase one being stat track on CSGO Float. Um, but yeah, it's just a Ouija board kind of applied to a sawed-off. It actually looks hella clean. I don't even know why. I mean, I do really like the wooden skins in this game. So since no Ouija board is generally pretty wooden, maybe that's why I like this thing. But I think it looks kind of clean with all this like lined up really well in the back here, and all the designs kind of perfectly stretched on this thing, except right here. There's a lot of visual tear at this part, and then the really far back here. I don't really know why that's there. And then it has some interesting stuff on the barrel. Clearly a lot of like detail put into this one. But realistically, looking at this thing, all I can see is like a wooden sawed off, kind of like a like a sawed like a prison sawed off or something where they built it with the materials they had available. You can barely tell that it's an Ouija board or whatever without looking at it too closely. So honestly, it's just kind of like a wooden sawed off for me, and I do like that, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. But if you want people to actually notice the Ouija board design, I don't think it's gonna be too noticeable. And next up is the P2000 Lifted Spirits, the final blue we have, and it's pretty basic. It's completely stock on the bottom with a few like lines scratched out. We've seen that in a million skins though. That's not particularly unique. And then it has like a forest line and some like floating spirits coming out of it, which is pretty cool. But the color scheme of 90% of this thing is just stock. And I mean that I do kind of like this design, so I'm gonna say it's definitely a little bit better than stock. But the fact that most of this is stock, I mean, I guess you're not seeing most of this in game, but I really do not like not fully completed skins. I think they probably could have done something with the bottom, maybe colored it white or something, or made it like hell or something, right? You could have the spirits floating up here, and then the spirits in like hell down here, or like going down or something. I think that could have been a cool detail, have it like red and white or something. I think that would have looked a lot nicer, but for an unfinished skin with a somewhat moderately okay design, I think it can easily belong in D tier. Next up we have our first purple, the G3SG Dreamglade, which is interesting. I don't. It's very cool. Okay, so first off, I'm noticing this rainbow kind of flashing. It's just purple and blue, really. Purple, blue, light blue flashing in the middle part here, which is kind of cool. But I'm confused what this is supposed to be, right? You can see all like the basic forest texture. It's almost looks like a camo skin for that part, which is whatever. But the part in the middle is really cool. I mean, it's cool how it glows. And then the guy's just kind of sitting there looking up at the glowing stuff around is pretty cool. And the whole skin as a whole, I mean, this is only like field test or something, and it looks like pristine, like hyper factory new. It's a .122, which is pretty far down there. And it looks pristine. I don't see a single scratch on this thing, which is amazing. I really do like that. But I think the design, I think they should have just done this middle part on the whole weapon. I think it would have looked really cool to have like a glowing blue thing. I guess it wouldn't fit the theme or whatever, but it kind of, these two parts do not go together at all. I guess it's supposed to be like I don't know, the dream in the middle of the brush or something. I don't know what they were going for here. It is nice that the skin's pristine, but I don't think the design fits very well together. Like these parts feel completely different, and I don't see why they're together at all. So for me, it's probably like a mid D tier weapon because it's not anything particularly great. Then we have the PP-Bizon Space Cat, which is just dope. I mean, this is a pretty simple design. It's just like a almost skull and bones like space cat. You can see it's actually detached in the middle here in two separate pieces. It's got like five tails or whatever because space cats or whatever, and it just works, right? It's a black skin generally with a few stars on it. The cat is put in the perfect position so that it just looks right. It probably cuts off around here on the when you're actually playing the game with certain FOVs anyway, so that actually look really nice. And I mean, this is a bit scratched up on the front here, but hopefully it's not like that on all of them because the rest of it's pretty clean. It's got, I mean, purple is an interesting color to choose on the other parts, but it's definitely solid. I'd say you can't really go wrong with this thing. I'm not going to say it's as great as like that Mac 10. It just that Mac 10 just feels amazing, but this is definitely a solid C tier. A lot of thought put into it, and it just looks kind of clean. Then next up we have the XM1014 Zombie Offensive, which is like the Op Paw and other skins where there's like a bunch of different things, except this time it's a bunch of different zombie operators. The difference between this and like the Paw though is this only applies to a small portion of the skin. I don't know why a lot of XM skins do this where they don't apply like the back handle and the stock here. I think it looks kind of ugly to not have it on the whole design. And they clearly have enough artwork here to stretch across the entire thing. I don't know why they couldn't do it. I think that takes away a lot from me, and you can honestly barely see the guys with how small the XM is here. But even in game, I mean, it's gonna be kind of hard to tell that this is any different from like the Paw, I guess. I don't know. I think the Paw had a lot more character, and this one doesn't seem to have any guys that really stand out above the rest. They all look virtually the same, and it only covers like a third of the skin. And I get that in game you only see everything past the handle generally, but you'll still see like the stock right here and stuff, and it's just not gonna be nice. I think it should have used the whole skin. Like I said, I don't like incompleted skin, so for me it's a D tier, and it's actually probably a really low D tier. This is barely better than stock, in my opinion. Then next up is the M4A1S Night Terror, which is it's kind of clean. I mean, it's got like a kind of like bloody metallic vibe to most of it, and it's got some like undead girl here with a lot of stuff written in what seems to be blood or at least red text, where it says like pain. It's like a scary face or whatever, and some other stuff that I can't really read. It just looks solid. I mean, it's like a bloody M4, something straight out of like a I don't know, like a horror film. It's not really from a horror film, but it looks clean. You can't go too wrong with this, and it looks different enough from stock that I can actually recommend people pick it up. So for me, it's a low C tier. It's nothing crazy, but it definitely isn't bad. It's very simple, but it does good at what it's going for. Then next up is the USP-S Ticket to Hell, which is interesting, I guess. It's pretty much entirely black. This could have been like the slate, and I think the slate is really dope. So that would have been cool if it had like a. We have the USP-S whiteout, so USP-S like blackout or slate or whatever you want to call it. Would have been sick, but then they added all this random stuff to it, like dead silence, be quiet, take it to hell. They added some teeth here. And I guess they needed to add that to get into the case, and it does look hella clean. I mean, this is a .02 to be fair, but it looks hella clean at least. But there's just so much going on, a lot of writing. I don't like when there's just a lot of writing that generally in game will be pretty meaningless. Like you'll be looking at like this or something, you can barely read anything there. But at least it looks okay. I'd say you can't really go too wrong with this. It generally is just like a blacker USP-S than stock, which is kind of cool. But I don't really like a lot of the design they added to it. I think it would have looked nicer if it was just a solid color black. Now our first pink is the FAMAS Rapid Eye Movement. And I've seen this one quite a bit. This is probably one of the most talked about skin, at least from what I've heard. And yeah, I mean it's just like a creepy ass skin with a bunch of pieces of eyes floating around on it. It does look hella clean, to be fair. I mean this isn't even fact new. This is min wear, and I don't see any visible scratches. The design looks hella clean. There's like bullets floating down into the mag or whatever, and there's just a bunch of eyes on it. So it's a really creepy looking skin, but definitely a well crafted one. I'm not gonna say it's as good as this Mac 10. This Mac 10 is like phenomenal. I really like it, but this one's definitely good enough for like a mid C tier, probably just above the sawed off. Yeah, it's a decent design, very well executed. I personally find it a bit creepy and probably won't use it. But I can see why people would like it. There's a lot of thought put into it. Then next up we have the MP7 Abyssal Apparition, which is like a monster coming up the mag and like opening its mouth on the top, and they have like an orange glow around it, which kind of invigorates the monster. That's like a monster color, right? That's like Halloween coloring. The rest of it is just kind of like seared black on the edges, which doesn't look too bad. Uh, and yeah, it's a solid design. It's nothing crazy. There's a guy down here, I guess, but you're never gonna see him in game. So that's a cool, I guess, addition of a guy like crying. That's like his inner demon, I guess, which is it's interesting. But yeah, the color scheme is solid. Monster itself looks cool. I do like the extra like green and red lines that kind of make it look like more imposing than it is. It's a pretty solid skin. I mean, it's nothing crazy yet again. I think this Mac 10 a lot of detail and just looks super clean. So this is just another C tier. I'm gonna put it right in the middle. You can't really go too wrong with this one, but I don't really think it's amazing. Then we have our final pink, the Dual Berettas Melon Drama. I'm not sure why they had drama in here, but it's like some laughing watermelons. It says "Beware of sleeping," which is it's like funny, right? They're I mean, it's supposed to be creepy and all that, but it's kind of funny to look at, and I think it's a kind of clean design. The color scheme's something we've like never seen before. The only problem is, I mean, this is actually a really low float one. I was gonna say the only problem is it's super scratched up here and everything, but I think that's just because this is a .31 float. I think that's the only reason it's like that. I think at a higher float it'll probably look a lot cleaner and you won't see stuff like this. And I actually just really like this design. I'm gonna actually have to shift the tier list after this one. I'm moving the Mac 10 up to A tier. It's just really nice in my opinion. And I'm gonna put these in a solid B. I do really like these. I might actually pick some of these up when they become cheaper than $500 for factory new, because the case just came out. But yeah, they're really solid. Dual Beretta skins, very unique color scheme, very good design, and it's just solid. I like how they look, and the design is very visible. You'd see it in game. Then we have the AK-47 Nightwish. This is a minware one. I guess there hasn't been any fact new ones, or they just don't have it on stash yet. Yeah, this is an interesting one. There's nothing like this in the game to my knowledge. It even glows apparently, which is interesting, but only at the far edges does it turn like purple. Well, that's pretty cool, I guess. But it's basically just this blue monster sign, or sometimes purple monster, depending on the angle, I guess. in the middle, kind of floating through a super complex galaxy with like asteroids and stuff, with a very unique color scheme. The background sky is done very nice. You can see the very fine little dots of stars, and everything else just kind of fits in place to make this thing look kind of clean. Uh, yeah, it's just a very clean design, very well thought out, and the glowing thing, it's something that you'll probably never see. But if you did, I mean, orange teeth and eyes with a purple guy looks a lot cooler than this. But this already looks pretty solid. I'd say this is definitely a solid A tier, and I'm actually going to bump up the Mech 10 again to S tier. I don't know if anything's going to top that, and I think I really do like it. I'm definitely picking up that Mech 10 after the prices drop down a bit. And we have the MP9 Starlight Protector, which, yeah, it's a basic white skin with a unicorn. It's very simple, but it's just super clean. I mean, this white finish on 90% of the skin is phenomenal. I really do like how it looks. Uh, not to, don't think I like the wrong thing here, but it kind of looks like a white knight. Not like the bad kind, but like the cool kind, like a white colored, just knight going down to battle or whatever. And then the unicorn in the space or whatever is kind of cool, kind of clean. And the stars in the front here coming off of that kind of look nice. I'm not even gonna lie. The stars right here, if you can see them, I don't know if you can. It's just this really solid skin, and you definitely can go pretty good with this. It just looks really clean. They did a really good job on the reds here. I think it's just a bit worse than the dualies, but definitely a solid B tier if nothing else. And yeah, that's it for this collection. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at the skins as much as I did. If you disagree with me on any of these, feel free to comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.